What's going on? So in this game we're going to be using the Portland Trailblazers going against the San Antonio Spurs. So it's a pretty good matchup on paper. Let's see how this actually turns out. Now the Blazers are a pretty fun team to use in NBA 2K just because they have so many offensive threats, especially from the three-point line. Obviously they've got their all-star backcourt in Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, but they also have some great role players who can light it up from three. They've got their two centers, Myers Leonard. They've got Zach Collins, who can also make threes. Jake Layman, Nick Stauskas, who's finally actually found a role in the NBA. If you guys remember, he was drafted by the Kings, didn't pan out, and so ever since then he's been kind of drifting along. As once again, Nurkic wide open in the lane, but they've got some really good offensive threats, so it's really easy to spread the floor with them. So really all you have to do with this Blazers team is run pick and roll, drive with Lillard or McCollum, and then just kick it out because pretty much everyone can shoot. So we're going to see how this game turns out. Speaking of the Blazers, so I think the Western Conference standings this season are going to be pretty interesting. I think it's actually a toss-up as far as the 2 to 8 spots in the West. Obviously, number 1 would be the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors by far the best team in the league, with or without DeMarcus Cousins. So let me go through my predictions for the 2018-2019 NBA season, because obviously you guys care about that, so why not? So I got the Warriors number 1. I've got number 2, the Rockets. Now I do think the Rockets are not going to be nearly as good as last season, just because number 1, I'm not a big fan of Carmelo Anthony. I'm not sure what else he has to give to a team. And at the same time, they lost some really good pieces in Trevor Ariza, Baumute, and those were their 2 best wing defenders. And they made some timely shots, obviously not in Game 7 of the Warriors series last season, but that I think was an anomaly. But they lost some 2 really important pieces for them, so they might not be as good, and they might actually struggle for a decent portion of the season, but we're going to see how it goes. So the Dubs 1, the Rockets number 2. I've got the Blazers still at number 3. They were the 3 seed last season as well, and I think they're going to hold serve. They're still a really good team. I'm very high in their backcourt, and as far as their inside presence, I mean Nurkic is one of the best centers in the NBA, so it's going to be they're going to be a good team again. So number 4, I'm going to put the New Orleans Pelicans. I think Anthony Davis is ready to break out. I don't think he's going to take the mantle of the best player in the league. People have been saying that he's going to do it for the past like 3 or 4 seasons. But listen, he's still very young. He's still only 24 years old. If you think about it, he's not even really in his prime yet. He could only get better from here. He's probably going to hit his prime in about a year or 2. But this could be an MVP caliber season for him. It probably will be. They got a lot of MVP caliber players this season. I think Kyrie, Kawhi are going to be probably the front runners alongside LeBron. But LeBron depends on how well the Lakers do. But we'll get into that later. So I've got the Pelicans 4th, and the reason why they're pretty high on my list is because I think, listen, Cousins is a great player, but I don't think it was the best fit alongside Anthony Davis. There's 2 guys that do virtually the same things. They just clog the paint together. I think with Mirotic out there getting more of a role, AD is going to have a lot more room to operate because Mirotic is excellent at stretching the floor. He's a sniper from downtown. So I think it's going to be another good season. They were very impressive in the playoffs last season. I mean, taking a win over that Golden State Warriors team while they were severely out-talented was pretty impressive. I mean, they swept the first round as well. So I think they're going to be a very good team, way better than last season, just because it's part of growth. And again, Anthony Davis, still very young, but that's another year where he's improving. Obviously, the question with him is if he can stay healthy, but I think they're going to have a good season. They also have added Julius Randle, and that was a huge pickup for them. I think he's going to really help pull down the fort while Anthony Davis is sitting on the bench. And number 5, I'm going to put, let's see here. We got the Blazers, the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm going to put, the Utah Jazz. So the reason why they're not higher, the Jazz, although they did have an incredible playoff run. I mean, beating that OKC Thunder team, I mean, especially with those 3 guys. That was pretty impressive. But I think Donovan Mitchell is going to have a bit of a sophomore slump. Just because teams know how deadly he is, or he can be. So they're going to game plan around him. They're going to focus on him. So we're going to see how he reacts to defenses being way more zoned in on his play. But that team, oh man, that team could surprise a lot of people because they're so well coached. And that arena, that Jazz arena, has been tough to play in for road teams for a very, very long time. I don't think LeBron has won a game against Utah, much less in that arena, for a very long time. So they're going to be a tough out for whoever they face in the playoffs. So we got the Utah Jazz at 5. I want to put the San Antonio Spurs at 6. Now, unfortunately, they've been plagued by, controversy with the whole Kawhi Leonard situation. They've traded away Danny Green as well. They lost DeJounte Murray to injury for the entire season. Hope he gets well soon. They lost Manu Ginobili, who was still a very good piece, even at his age, last season. And they also they lost Tony Parker, but he was kind of washed up at that point, so that wasn't really a big loss. But it's still weird to see him in a Hornets jersey. But I digress. I think they're still going to be a very good team. It's hard to think that a Greg Popovich team, no matter who he has on his team, is going to miss the playoffs, just because he has talent on that team. I mean, DeMar DeRozan, not nearly as good as Kawhi Leonard, for sure, but he's still an all-star, as well as LaMarcus Aldridge. They've still got Pau Gasol, who even at his age, he's still a gold mine. Rudy Gay, they kept Patty Mills, which is great because he's one of the most electric bench players in the NBA. So they still have a very good team, very talented. So I've got them at number 6. And number 7, and this is where it kind of gets very tough, is because I think there's a few teams that are going to compete for that 7-8 spot. At 7, I'm going to put the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, some people might agree with this. I think most people would disagree just because, hey, they've got LeBron James. Why would they be so low? The reason why I think that they were going to be not nearly as good as some people think is because I think it'll take them at least like 20 games for them to really try to get it together, right? They've shown flashes of good chemistry in the preseason, and I do think they'll eventually be a decent team. But LeBron James is one of those players, and we've seen this time and time again. When he started with the Heat, when he came back with the Cavaliers, they're going to have a tough time. They're going to have a tough first half of the season, just because LeBron James is one of those players. He's so great, but he's also so demanding that it's very tough to integrate him with the system, just because, number one, he's not the best off-ball player, and number two, he's LeBron James. We all know how he plays. He likes to bring the ball up the floor, do everything by himself, and it's going to really take a concerted effort by him, as well as the coaching staff, to really put him in positions where he can play off the ball, but also allow other players to make plays. Rondo, Lonzo Ball. So it's going to be a tough go for them. I think the issue with the Lakers, aside from that, is number one, they don't have great three-point shooters, as we all know. Ingram is capable, Josh Hart is probably their best three-point shooter. LeBron James is pretty damn good at shooting threes, but he can be inconsistent. He'll have games where he's not going to either score a three or he's going to be very inefficient from that range. So that's going to be their issue, as well as lack of rebounding. I mean, they've got to play McGee heavy minutes this season. It's going to be because they have no one else to really dominate down low or clean the glass. It's going to be a lot of gang rebounding schemes implemented. So it's going to be a tough go for them, in my opinion. As far as how far they make it in the playoffs, we'll see. We'll talk about it in a different video, but I have them at number 7. And number 8, I've got OKC. Just because I think a lot of it depends on... I don't think their team is that good or that deep. They've got Dennis Schroeder, who is pretty good backup point guard. But at the same time, I mean, I think they need Roberson to really shore up their defense. Because without him, they showed themselves to be pretty clueless on that end. It also depends on how Paul George plays, because Paul George, although he's a very good player, I'm not going to say he's a great player, but he's a very good player. He has flashes of being a great player, but he can be inconsistent. I mean, you probably get 20 points a game from him, but when he gets those 20 points and how he gets those 20 points, that really depends. So I think he's going to need to be great for them to be even better than an 8 seed. But I think it's going to be a struggle for them. Also, Westbrook has been dealing with some injuries. He's had a knee injury, so hopefully he stays healthy there. But I just think it's going to be a tough go for them. But I could easily be wrong. They could easily be a much higher seed. They do have a bit of a better bench than the Lakers, but I just think the LeBron factor will have them be better than the Thunder. But as far as who's going to compete for those 7 to 8 spots, I think not only the Lakers, the OKC Thunder, but I think the Nuggets are going to be a very good team once again. I mean, they barely missed the playoffs last season, but I think you got to think that they're going to be a lot better this season. I mean, they've got Jokic for another year, who's arguably, in my opinion, the most skilled center in the league. Because there's really nothing that he can't do excellently. I mean, he's a great post player. He can stretch the floor, hit threes fairly consistently. He's the best passing big man in the NBA. And he's, 7'1", 7 feet at least. So I think they have a very good team, very well coached. I think very highly of Mike Malone. And they've got really good depth, so I think they're going to have a really good season. But the reason why I think they're going to miss the playoffs is just because I think at the end of the day, star power wins. And I think the Thunder have more star power than them. So, but hey, again, I could easily be wrong. Another team that might make the playoffs, but it really depends, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, this is a team that's marred by controversy. Talk about a wacky season. I mean, Jimmy Butler requests a trade. He wants to get the hell out of there. Thibodeau, for some weird reason, has a fixation with him, so he doesn't want to trade him. And then he goes into practice and he talks all this shit to his teammates, and then he doesn't ride on the team bus to games. It's weird because at this point it makes sense to trade him, obviously, because he's most likely, I think there's 99.9% chance he's gonna walk away from the Wolves for free. So why not trade him? Get something at least in return. So I don't get that. But it all depends. Do they keep Butler for the season? Do they trade him at the deadline? Because I think if they keep him, unless it really shakes up Towns, because he's got a reputation as being soft. But I do think, depending on if he plays the rest of the season or not, Butler, that is, they could make the playoffs. But at this point, it's very up in the air, and I wouldn't be willing to bet on them earning a playoff spot. So those are my predictions. I could be very wrong. If you disagree with anything that I've said, you probably will. Feel free to leave a comment below, and I'd be happy to talk about it with you and engage with you. So just to list it out once again: number 1, the Warriors; number 2, the Rockets; number 3, the Blazers; number 4, the Pelicans; number 5, the Utah Jazz; number 6, the San Antonio Spurs; number 7, the Lakers; and number 8, the OKC Thunder. But I would give consideration to the Nuggets and to the Timberwolves for that 8 spot as well. Alright, so let's talk about this game. Pretty good game. The first half was very competitive, but I don't know what happened to him at the end there in the second half. I think he just got very impatient with his shot selection, and he wasn't playing the best defense. So, pretty good game, but I'm up by 20 points here. You see Damian Lillard is on fire. Pull-up jumper. Nope, even though he's on fire, does not get that to go. And he fouls me. But I'm going to skip to the end here. Going to dribble it out. Another win, undefeated in this league. And look at that petty flash pause cheese, man. Come on. He was a good sport the entire game, and then he pulls that BS. Oh well, on to the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.